right?
Natufians are phenotypically consistent with Nubians and Niger-Congo.
Here we are again, another ignorant outburst and zero evidence. There's no one more confident in their stupidity than an Afrocentric with glasses. In his craniofacial analysis, Brace grouped Natufians with present-day Sub-Saharan Niger-Congo speakers. However, this has been proven as a morphological clustering error based on the extremely small sample size. Brace discusses this factor throughout the paper, noting the sample size is problematic due to its small size. Brace states the Natufian sample from Israel is also problematic because it is so small, being constituted of 3 males and 1 female from the late Pleistocene Epipaleolithic. Ole Andy is content with 4 skull samples in this study, yet in his previous video expressed fake outrage with what he perceived as small sample size, which was in reality hundreds. It's never-ending hypocrisy and double standards. Afrocentrics cling to this study because Brace lumped distinct populations together, which obscured differences. The neighbor-joining dendrogram is an ocean of Eurasian samples. Niger-Congo is on its own twig, completely separate from Natufian. He should ask himself, why does Niger-Congo piggyback off Eurasian samples when 18 variables were utilized? When the 24 variables are included and more African samples are included, Niger-Congo shows no relation to Natufian. Prehistoric recent Northeast Africa represents Caucasoid samples such as Nakada Bronze Age, Nubia Bronze Age, Israeli Fellahin, and Caucasoid adjacent Somali. They do not show any relation to Niger-Congo, but instead show relation with greater Eurasian and European populations. Natufians were not Niger-Congo related, shifted, nor affiliated. The attempt to tie Natufians to Niger-Congo is a false dichotomy, built on flawed sampling and selective use of data. Niger-Congo sits as an outlier because that's exactly what it is, unrelated. Limiting the variables distorts the clustering, creating false associations. When 24 variables are applied and actual African samples are included, Niger-Congo stands apart and shows no relation to the Natufians. The supposed connection was nothing more than an artifact of flawed sampling. If more than 24 variables were applied along with a broader range of sub-Saharan samples, Niger-Congo would be pushed even further away from Eurasians, thus producing robust results. The supposed closeness is a statistical artifact of limited sampling, not true biological relationship. Accordingly, Brace et al. Admitted that the Natufians produced unusually high Mahalanobis distance values. In other words, they did not truly cluster with Niger-Congo sub-Saharans. The high values show they were statistically distant, and the proximity was only an artifact based on the few selected variables used. Indeed, Brace et al. State the generally high D2 values for the Natufian sample in Table 3 are almost certainly a reflection of the very small sample size. So you see, Afrocentrics prefer studies that are admittedly flawed. And what of legitimate studies on the Natufians? Afrocentrics steer clear away from them. 2013, T.W. Holliday. Population affinities of the Jebel Sahaba skeletal sample limb proportion evidence. This study demonstrates a clear distinction between Levantine Natufians and the contemporaneous Sudanese population of Jebel Sahaba. Multivariate analyses, principal components analysis, principal coordinates analysis, with minimum spanning tree and neighbor joining cluster analyses indicate that the body shape of the Jebel Sahaba humans is most similar to that of recent sub-Saharan Africans and different from that of either the Levantine Natufians or the Northwest African Ibero-Mauritian samples. Importantly, these results corroborate those of both Irish and Franciscus, who, using dental, oral, and nasal morphology, found that Jebel Sahaba was most similar to recent sub-Saharan Africans and morphologically distinct from their contemporaries in other parts of North Africa, or the groups that succeed them in Nubia. This is a two-bird, one-stone study, or should I say three-bird, one-stone study. Natufians, Sudanese Jebel Sahaba, and Ibero-Mauritians, Sudanese Jebel Sahaba is most similar to recent Sub-Saharans and unlike that of Levantine Natufians and Ibero-Maurusians. Natufians and Ibero-Maurusians are unlike Sub-Saharans because they are not Sub-Saharans. Neither were Upper or Lower Post-Pleistocene Nubians. Globally, the use of MMD and dental traits has demonstrated strong correspondences concerning biological affinity as determined by multiple genetic polymorphisms. A series of papers that examined dental morphology in the northern Nile Valley and the adjacent Levant in late Pleistocene and Holocene times found that a great deal of biological change had occurred, so much so in fact that adaptation was clearly out of the question. Elsewhere in the world, large amounts of rapid diachronic dental morphological change have been found only in populations that had been replaced or had received large numbers of migrants over short periods of time. Regional dental morphology is remarkably stable over relatively long periods of time. For example, the frequencies of many dental traits of North and South American Indians are effectively identical, despite separation for at least 10,000 years. Diachronic comparative dental studies of North Africa showed that there was a significant change in dental trait frequencies such as genetic discontinuity between the Pleistocene and Holocene populations, whereas continuity has been the situation for most of the later Holocene. Late Pleistocene Mesolithic Nubians were dentally much like West Africans and other Africans south of the Sahara. Holocene Nubians, such as Christian, X-Group, and Meroitic, are much like southwestern Eurasians in Gedi, Israel, southern Levant, and Natufian Israel. The latest in these North African Near East dental studies involved archaeologically derived materials from Israel, specifically Natufians, and more recent materials in Gedi. Analysis showed that the Natufian dentition was much like more recent southern Levant people as well as Holocene Nubians. This inference for migration, based on dental morphology, utilizes univariate and multivariate statistical comparisons, is strong and is as well-founded as the broadly accepted inference based on dental morphology that the ancestors of all Native Americans originated in northeastern Asia. Table 1 lists the frequencies of a few morphological traits to show marked differences between Pleistocene and Holocene North Africa and the Holocene similarities of North Africa and the Middle East. West Africans and Pleistocene Jebel Sahaba Sudan show no relation to Meroitic, X-Group Christian Southern Levant Neolithic, Engedi, or Natufians. Table 2 provides multivariate statistical comparisons using Smith's mean measure of divergence. Smaller values indicate greater multivariate intergroup similarity, while large values indicate greater dissimilarity. Hence, in Table 2, dental traits studied in the southern Levant are multivariately 4 times more similar with Natufian teeth than are southern Levant teeth like those of West Africa or late Pleistocene Nubia Jebel Sahaba. Another study, same results, who were the Natufians, a dental assessment of their biological coherency, Lipschultz 1997. This study utilizes 26 scorable dental traits for the Pleistocene Jebel Sahaba Nubian and Natufian samples. A value of 000 indicates no phonetic dissimilarity between samples. The average MMD value between the Natufian and late Pleistocene Nubian Jebel Sahaba dental samples is 0.410. This underscores a profound distinction between Natufians and Pleistocene Jebel Sahaba populations, so pronounced that it represents a clear racial divide in biological anthropology. All Natufian samples are significantly different from the late Pleistocene Jebel Sahaba Nubian dental sample. This is yet another study confirming the same pattern as previous ones, directly dismissing TKM's egregious assertion that Natufians were phenotypically consistent with Nubians and Niger-Congo. Also, just to point out, he hasn't established which Nubians he's talking about. They were not one monolithic group. Natufians show no relation whatsoever with Jebel Sahaba Nubians or Niger-Congo speakers, and he's certainly not going to provide any evidence that they do. DNA settles everything. Let's see if he ever presents genetic data showing the same genetic ancestry for Natufians as Jebel Sahaba Nubians or Niger-Congo speakers. He would have to prove Jebel Sahaba Nubians and Niger-Congo speakers have Basal Eurasian and Villabruna-related background, since the Natufian genome consists of Villabruna-related ancestry and post-glacial Western European hunter-gatherers. Show us the evidence, Andy. Your opinion is meaningless. It's worth noting that he hasn't specified which Nubians he's referring to. Nubia was never a monolithic population. Late Pleistocene Jebel Sahaba Nubians show no relationship with Neolithic Nubians, A group Nubians, C group Nubians, and so forth, but instead shows affinity to recent Sub-Saharan West Africans. The genetic structure of the world's first farmers, Lazaridis et al., 2016. We report genome-wide ancient DNA from 44 ancient Near Easterners, ranging in time between 12,000 to 1,400 BCE, from Natufian hunter-gatherers to Bronze Age farmers. We show that the earliest populations of the Near East derived around half their ancestry from a Basal Eurasian lineage that had little, if any, Neanderthal admixture, and that separated from other non-African lineages prior to their separation from each other. The Natufian genome is composed of roughly half Basal Eurasian ancestry, and this Basal Eurasian lineage split from other non-Africans. That's right, Basal Eurasians split from other non-Africans, meaning these populations were never African, let alone Sub-Saharan. The literature consistently describes Basal Eurasians, including Natufians, as non-African. Why does TKM insist Natufians are some sort of generic Africans, or even more inaccurately, Sub-Saharans, when data say no such thing? Natufians are half Basal Eurasian, so what's the other half? A 23,000-year-old southern Iberian individual links human groups that lived in Western Europe before and after the last glacial maximum. Others have shown that Natufians can be modeled using Villabruna-like ancestry and Basal Eurasian ancestry. Villabruna-like ancestry was also detected in the non-Basal Eurasian part of the ancestry of Anatolian HG and Natufians, which suggested bidirectionality. That is a contribution of Villabruna-like ancestry to ancient Near Easterners before 15,000 years ago before present. Late Pleistocene human genome suggests a local origin for the first farmers of central Anatolia. Note location of Natufians. PCA demonstrates, along PC2, European Western hunter-gatherers, ancient Anatolians and Natufians have similar coordinates. These are all obviously Caucasoid populations. Importantly, no Sub-Saharan samples appear among them. Sub-Saharans are not plotted in this space because their genetic variation lies entirely outside of this cline. Again, note location of Natufians in relation to world populations, designated as Levant Paleolithic in the legend. Sub-Saharans are so distant they quite literally fall off the chart. Natufians cluster with fellow Levantines, Caucasus Paleolithic, Caucasus Neolithic, Anatolia Paleolithic, Anatolia Neolithic, Anatolia Chalcolithic, Anatolia Bronze Age, Levant Neolithic, Levant Chalcolithic, Levant Bronze Age, Mesopotamia Neolithic, Morocco Neolithic, Old Kingdom Nuarat 001, etc., etc., etc. Who cannot see this? What happened to that exclusively black skin and black phenotype that's supposed to be all across the Levant, Arabia, and Africa from the Paleolithic to recent era? It's not there. Afrocentrics like Ol Andy spread lies to their circus seal clappers, claiming ancient Eurasians such as the Natufians or the Iron Age Lakish population had black skin and black phenotype from the Paleolithic through the recent era. Nothing could be further from the truth. The genetic data completely squashes the twisted black supremacist narrative, its identity politics born out of self-hate, explaining why they never focus on sub-Saharan genetics, history, or achievements. For Natufians to be Niger-Congo or Jebel Sahaba, like Nubians would actually have to cluster with them genetically, yet they fail completely. Can Andy explain this glaring discrepancy? Genome-wide analysis shows no affinity whatsoever between Natufians or Sub-Saharans. The overwhelming avoidance of Afrocentrics discussing Paleolithic through recent-era Sub-Saharans explains everything. He wouldn't dare show his loyal seals a PCA of global population placement, because the moment they saw where Natufians are situated, the whole charade would collapse. Remember this?
Only Africans exhibit dolichocephaly.
Oh, yes, he did say that, didn't he? Then where are the two traits he never shuts up about as being sub-Saharan? Where's the prognathism? Where's the dolichocephaly? Nowhere to be found. The evidence flat out contradicts his assertions. Plaster skulls from Tel Aswad, Damascus, Syria, date to 7,500 BC. Where is this supposed black phenotype that's supposed to be in the Levant at this time in prehistory? Where are the Niger-Congo traits? Where are the Jebel Sahaba traits? Point to it. Natufians carried approximately 44% Basal Eurasian and 56% West Eurasian ancestry. BE likely originated in the Arabia Gulf and spread across the Arabian Peninsula and beyond. The earliest sample is from a Paleolithic skeleton in Georgia 25,000 years ago. The West Eurasian ancestry is a deep genetic source dominant in Western Europe and Anatolia, expressing Neanderthal admixture. Major waves of this component spread into the Fertile Crescent, merging with lineages there. The Y-DNA and mtDNA haplogroups present among Natufians show no ancestral descent from Jebel Sahaba Nubians, Niger-Congo speakers, Nilotic Sudanese, or any other sub-Saharan group. To date, Natufians carried the Y chromosome haplogroup E1b1b1b2, identified as EZ830. EZ830 diversified into several subclades, such as EM84, EZ841, and EV1515. Some of these have Arabian roots. These can be found in the Neolithic, Chalcolithic, and Bronze Age Levant. Natufians also carried the mtDNA chromosome haplogroup J2A2, a descendant of JT having originated in the Middle East with distribution in Western Europe. N1 billion originated in the Middle East, is found across Europe, and has a broad global distribution. Associated haplogroup J1 originated in the Caucasus, then spread through the Fertile Crescent during and after the Bronze Age. Associated haplogroup J2 originated in the Near East, then spread in the Levant during the Bronze Age. Associated haplogroup T originated in the Near East, then spread in the Levant during the Chalcolithic. Associated haplogroup TL originated in the Near East since the Paleolithic and later became rare. Associated haplogroup G originated in Anatolia, spread into northern Mesopotamia during the Neolithic and Levant during the Bronze Age. Associated haplogroup R originated in North Eurasia or Central Eurasia, with subclades migrating to the Levant during Bronze and Iron Age. No affinity of Natufians to Sub-Saharans is evident. Andy's a swivel chair ideologue spouting rubbish for clout. I'm thoroughly convinced he doesn't believe the nonsense he spews. What he does know is that there's a vulnerable portion of the population eager to be spoon-fed feel-good ideological slop, and he's simply cashing in on it.